Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
And today we're talking about Constantine. Released in 2005, directed by Francis Lawrence, written by Kevin Broadbent and Frank Capello from a story by Kevin Broadbent and starring Keanu Reeves, Rachel Weisz, Shia LaBeouf, Jamon Hunsu, Max Baker, Pruitt Taylor Vince, Gavin Rossdale, which is I've always found interesting, Tilda Swinton, and Peter Stormare as Lucifer. This was Francis Lawrence's directorial debut. He was a music video director, similar to what we just talked about with Alien 3 and David Fincher. He was a music video director, and this was his first feature film. He would go on to direct almost every Hunger Games movie. He didn't do the first one, but he did all of them after that, including the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, or whatever it's called.
Which is a fantastic movie.
That's what you've told me. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't read that book either. And then he also, they just announced a sequel book to that book, which is still a prequel, I guess, and announced the movie like right after that. Like the book is coming out next year and the movie is already in pre-production, I think. And Francis Lawrence, according to IMDb, is attached to it.
Yeah, that book is going to be, the book and the movie is going to be based on Haymitch.
Oh, cool.
Which
that's cool.
I'm looking forward to because Haymitch is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. I wonder who they'll get to play young. That's Woody Harrelson's character, right? So a young Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'd be curious. But anyway, this was Francis Lawrence's first film, Constantine, based on the DC comic, which I saw this movie in 2005 in the theater. And I had no idea that it was based on a comic book. I had seen the Hellblazer comic before. I probably saw it in a comic book store because in the early 2000s is when I kind of got into comic collecting. So I'd probably seen the Hellblazer comic before. I just didn't know who the main character of Hellblazer was, that it was a guy named John Constantine. So I didn't know this movie was based on a comic at the time that I saw it, even though it has the DC Vertigo logo in the beginning. But I don't recall. And maybe I saw that when I saw it in the theater and was like, oh, I just didn't know anything about it. And then when I did discover that Constantine was based on a comic called Hellblazer, I also found out that this version of Constantine is not, I mean, he's similar to the comic version, but not in appearance. In the comics, Constantine is a blonde. He wears a tan trench coat, and he's British. And that's not how it is in this movie.
No, it isn't. I was not too familiar with the Hellblazer comics before watching this movie. I didn't watch this movie for the first time until 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, I only knew about John Constantine like on a surface level. I knew who he was, and I knew he dealt with magic, and I knew he was a Vertigo DC character, but that's the extent that I knew before watching this movie. At the time the movie came out, I think I knew all of that when the movie came out. I could be misremembering that, but this came out in 2005, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had been heavily into comics for about like 4 years by then. So I think I knew about him before the movie came out. But I watched this movie for the first time 2 years ago. I was like, yo, this is pretty good. And it's always a movie that I've heard of that people say, hey, like it's a different kind of comic book movie, but you'll like it. It's not, it's nothing to write home about, but you knowing the kind of stuff you're into, you'll be entertained by this movie. And I'm happy to say that those people were not wrong. I very much enjoy this movie. You mentioned that this version of Constantine is different in appearance to how we usually see him in the comics, which is true. But he brings all the essence of Constantine. I love Keanu Reeves' Constantine. I like Matt Ryan's Constantine as well. They're different, but they both feel like Constantine.
Right. Yeah, I that's why I was originally going to say, this Constantine is very different, but he's not. He's actually very the essence, like you said, is very much like the comic version of Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
I read on IMDb that they originally wrote the script having Constantine be British, and none of the studios were interested. And when they changed it to be to have him be an American in LA, then suddenly studios were interested. It's real. I don't know if that's true, but that's what IMDb says. But I really like Keanu Reeves as Constantine as well. And I'm not, and like I said, I didn't really know Constantine before seeing this movie the first time. I will say the first time I saw it, I didn't really actually like it that much. I saw it with John, and John hated it. And I didn't hate it, but I just was like, it wasn't as good as I was really hoping for, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I rewatched it a few years later and liked it a lot more the second time around.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was expecting going into it the first time, but I guess it just didn't meet my expectations, or it was different than I thought. I don't know what, but having like those expectations kind of set the second time around, I was able to enjoy the movie a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked it watching it this time around. I had forgotten, I hadn't seen it in a long time. And so I'd forgotten some stuff. I'd forgot all about Pruitt Taylor Vince being in it, which is our new Pa Kent, our new Jonathan Kent in the James Gunn Superman movie. I forgot he was in it. This is a big plot point, but I totally forgot Rachel Weisz played twins. Totally forgot about that. Yeah, it was kind of almost not quite watching it for the first time, because there were a lot of it I remembered, but and just, it was like, oh yeah, watching it again this time around.
Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it a little bit more the watching it this time around. My favorite thing about the movie is the aesthetic. I love the noir fantasy aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't like when DC gets into the dark fantasy type stuff. Right. At least with the Justice League characters. I know there are no Justice League characters in this movie, but I like that stuff. I like when I do too. When DC goes magic. I
do too, and I like this movie too for that same reason. I think it's a cool vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I are big fans of the Justice League Dark animated movie, which is Constantine's basically the main character of that film.
Yeah.
And we'll see Constantine again in the DC animated New 52 universe we've been covering as we get closer to the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think it's got a cool aesthetic. I like he's not really like a private eye, but that's kind of that's kind of the aesthetic, he is investigating something. He's trying to figure out why these demons are attempting to come to our plane and things like that. And so there is a bit of a mystery to it, and him trying to solve the puzzle, which is cool.
Right.
Some cool characters. I read again on IMDb. I've never read a Hellblazer comic. I think the only comic that I have read that has John Constantine in it was Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
I've only read the first volume of Sandman by Neil Gaiman.
Uh-huh.
And actually, for whatever reason, I thought that was where John Constantine was created. So I thought Neil Gaiman created Constantine, but I looked it up today. He was created by Alan Moore. Apparently, he was created for. I might be getting this wrong, but I think he was created for Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, and then was given his own comic after that.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandman was turned into a TV show, and I looked it up. They changed it to Joanna or something like that, Constantine. So it's a woman that plays Constantine, which I guess that character does show up in the Sandman comics, but they went ahead and just made John Constantine's appearance in the first volume. They just went ahead and made it that character for the TV show.
Okay.
But then, yeah, Constantine has been on Legends of Tomorrow, which I actually haven't. I think I've maybe barely gotten, because I still haven't finished that show. I burn out on those CW shows, and I haven't finished them.
Everybody burns out on those.
Yeah, and so I can't remember. I think I'm on season 3 or something, so I may have come across Constantine on there, but I don't remember. But I like him as Constantine, and I think it's cool that they use him for the animated version too.
Yeah. I really like Matt Ryan. As far as Legends of Tomorrow, I've only watched the first season, and I know everybody says the show gets better after that season. It's just, I don't know. I just, it's hard for me to revisit it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand that. And I forgot, just talking about it, Constantine had his own show. He had one season of his own show.
Yeah.
And I did watch NBC. The pilot episode of that, and I don't think I ever finished it, but that was Matt Ryan as well. And then when that show got canceled, I think they just worked him into Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, they brought him into. I don't know if he was in Legends of Tomorrow first or Arrow. I think he was on Arrow first, and then he was on Legends of Tomorrow. Because I remember it being a big deal when when they brought Matt Ryan.
Constantine showed up.
Yeah, because Constantine had gotten canceled maybe 2 or 3 years. It might not have been that long. Maybe 2 years before he had showed back up on Arrow, and it was a huge deal for nerds,
right?
And like fans of the show.
Yeah, that's cool. I've always wanted to, because I own most of the CW shows on physical media. And I don't have Constantine, so I've thought about getting it and watching the show. Because I remember liking that first episode. I just don't know why I never continued with it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with, I never watched Swamp Thing. That was on like DC Universe before it turned into went under and became Max.
Yeah, I never watched it either.
So, but I wouldn't mind watching that too. And I don't own that one either. But anyway, if you had asked me before rewatching this movie, by the way, if you had said, where does this movie take place? I would have said New York. For some reason, I thought this movie took place in New York. And then I realized it was Los Angeles. And I was like, oh, weird.
I
don't know why I had that in my brain.
Los Angeles. I mean,
yeah.
Most of what I've seen from the character of Constantine, it's in Los Angeles. So anytime I see the character, I just assume it's Los Angeles.
It's just LA. And it works with, like you said, the noir kind of vibe for it and everything.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Rachel Weisz's character or characters?
I like Rachel Weisz in this movie. One of the notes I wrote is like it starts the first scene we see Rachel Weisz in. She's in confession at her Catholic church, and she's confessing to killing a man again. She's like, I killed a man again, and then of course you find out she was a cop and she just happened to know where this guy was and to pull the trigger. She said she didn't even see his face.
Right.
And I have a little bit of a problem with that because nothing comes of that. Like, I know she's a cop and she probably killed a criminal or whatever. But like, usually there's some kind of consequence or repercussion. Yeah. Or like I think about like in The Departed, like there's a psychiatrist that usually like when cops like have to like, when they kill somebody, especially like they have to go to like mandatory kind of, they got to get a psyche eval. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And there's just nothing with this movie. Like we immediately see her on the job and she's at her sister's crime scene or whatever, death, whatever. Yeah. And I was just like, I understand they wanted to show us that she's Catholic by showing her in confession, and they wanted to give us a little glimpse into the fact that she's psychic. But, I mean, I wish they should have just done something else. Yeah. Like she could have been confessing to some other sin or whatever, but like the fact that she's like, I killed a guy again. Yeah. Most cops can go 20 years without firing their weapon, and this is the second guy I've killed. And there's just nothing about that. It was weird to me. So that was my kind of only real issue, not with her character, but just with her character's introduction. And then of course there's two moments in this movie where you're at like a crime scene with a person who has died, and for Rachel Weisz's character, I can kind of forgive it because it's her sister, but she's like moving hairs on the corpse, and the other detective is just standing there watching her do it, and I'm kind of like, you're tampering. I don't know if you should be doing that. Right. And then the second time is after Hennessy dies, who Pruitt Taylor Vince's character. Yeah. And it's Constantine. He goes up and he rubs the ice on the hand and stuff, and the two cops are just watching him. And I was thinking, like, I understand Rachel Weisz like knows who Constantine is, but the other cop has no idea. And he's just like, he's totally cool with this guy coming and just messing with this dead body. Right. Even Batman don't get that kind of right, exactly. If Batman walk in touching exactly stuff, they be like, yo, like, what you doing, bro? Whoa. Right. It did actually make me think about like the scene from the Batman where like that one cop stops Batman. He's like, whoa. Like, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. But in this movie, the cops are just like, yeah, whatever, anybody. You want to look at the cop? You want to look at the corpse? That's fine. How about you? You next?
Man, we get a couple pizzas, tamper with some evidence.
Right, yeah, exactly. Sell some tickets here. So I thought that was kind of funny. But no, I think she does a good job. There's not obviously much for her with Isabel. It's just jumping off a roof and turning to the camera and saying, Constantine. And they do it's like the exact same footage. Obviously, it was shot like on a green screen because, or maybe it wasn't, and they just changed the background. But the shot of her on the roof, taking the bracelet off, kind of tossing it in the wind.
Yeah.
It comes back towards the camera and we see her again. And that's when she says, Constantine. That same exact shot is when he goes to see if she's in hell. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting that they used the exact same shot or the exact same footage, you know?
Yeah. The special effects in this movie, I like them for the most part.
Yeah.
There was one scene that I wasn't quite fond of, but the special effects in this movie are pretty good.
Yeah, there's for the most part, I would agree with you too. I think when Constantine is in hell,
that is clearly green screen.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, I think, this movie's almost 20 years old, and I was going to say the early 2000s are not known for their great special effects.
No.
There's a scene, I think towards the beginning of the movie, where the guy that has the Spear of Destiny, who got hit by the car in the very beginning.
Yeah.
He's like walking down the street and all these cows are falling over dead because he's approaching. Those cows don't look good.
No, they don't.
And I was going to say, in the early 2000s, like animals and people and things like that, they just didn't, the technology just wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah, it was very, very hard to do.
And then even green screen stuff like Keanu Reeves in Hell, we've just gotten so much better.
Yeah.
With that stuff. And so I can forgive it because it is almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
But I like the look of it.
Yes.
And
like the design of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to point out was, I always say you got to take IMDb with a grain of salt. I kind of believe this one because of a couple of visual things in the movie. Apparently in the original script, hell was going to be a black void.
Huh.
And they're with like oil on the ground or on the floor. And the main reason why I believe that is because when Beeman pulls out the Bible from hell so that they can look up at those chapters in Corinthians.
Yeah.
It's like wrapped and he unwraps it and there's like what looks like oil or tar like on the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Lucifer shows up at the end, his feet are covered in oil.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it kind of makes me wonder if it was a post-production change and they decided to change the look of hell late in the game.
I believe that, yeah.
That being said, I really like the way it looks. They said that it was, again, IMDb says that it was inspired by like atomic bomb testing, like test footage, you know, where like stuff is like right about to vaporize or about to, get destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's why everything kind of looks like it's just
in like a state of flux.
Yeah.
It's like it's in between exploding and not exploding.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I like the look of the demons in this movie. The thing that I didn't like, other than the cows, was I forget his name. The guy in the suit.
Balthazar?
Yes, Balthazar. Yeah. When Constantine shoots Balthazar and like half of his face is like scattered all over the table, that did not look good.
Right. Yeah, and I understand what they were kind of going for.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I watched this on my computer, so it didn't look terrible to me on my smaller computer monitor. Was that CG?
Yes.
Or was that like a prosthetic?
CG.
Okay, so it was all just CG.
So before his face exploded, it was prosthetic. And then Constantine shoots him. A piece of his face is over here, a piece of his face is over here, and it's upside down. That was CG.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they had made it kind of a prosthetic or something similar to kind of the last movie we watched, Alien 3 with Bishop,
Yeah.
That might have been a little cooler, perhaps. I like when he gets hit with the holy water and it's the prosthetic on his face.
Yeah.
I think that looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Balthazar. That's one of the scenes that I remember the most for whatever reason. I think Gavin Rossdale doesn't have too many scenes in this movie. And I remember when I don't know if I knew he was in the movie or not when I went to go see it, but when he showed up, I was like, Gavin Rossdale, the lead singer of Bush. All right. He's in this movie. But there's a scene where right before Constantine shows up, Gavin Rossdale's looking or Balthazar is looking in the mirror, and the mirror explodes and he like gets thrown back on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I for whatever reason, I just really like Gavin Rossdale's performance here and the way the camera pushes in on him and he sits up and he goes, fire? I was born for this.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
And then he throws the holy water on him. Yeah, it's I thought there's one line of Gavin Rossdale's that I will applaud that he, performed it straight. But there's a line that is just like almost cringeworthy bad where he first meets Constantine and he's like, rumor is you're going down. Fresh meat. And then he like licks his fingers and goes, finger licking good. And like Constantine's ear. And I was just like,
yeah,
yowzers.
that was pretty bad. The scene right after he confronts Balthazar, when Rachel Weisz's character gets snatched out of the building, that is my favorite part of the movie. I love that scene. And that was actually, I remember that being a trailer moment, and it looks so much better in the movie. Like I was like, I love it. Like it's short, but I love the way they do that scene.
Yeah, it's a cool scene. I like that scene too. How do you feel about Jamon Hinsu's Papa Midnight?
I like his character, Papa Midnight. I like his interactions with Shia LaBeouf's character.
Right.
I forget his name.
Shia LaBeouf is Chaz Kramer.
Yeah.
Who apparently, I guess, is in the comics. I don't, like I said, there are a lot of characters they created, like Hennessy's not in the comics. I don't think Angela or Isabel are in the comics. Gabriel is. Balthazar might not be. I don't know, but apparently Chaz is.
Yeah.
And Beeman might not even be either, or maybe I don't know. I can't remember. Again, I read this on IMDb, so who knows? But yeah, I like Papa Midnight. I'm a little confused, and maybe I just missed it in the movie, but he's like, his whole thing is his club is like neutral ground.
Yeah. So
angels and demons can be there, and they're not allowed to. It's kind of like, it's funny. It's kind of like in John Wick, Continental or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's like you're not allowed to fight on the grounds kind of thing.
Right.
Which is another Keanu Reeves franchise. But he himself is not a demon or an angel, right? He's just he's kind of like Constantine. He's just a human, but connected to this world.
That's
basically.
what I assumed. I don't think they explicitly say what he is. Maybe they did, and I just missed it, but I don't think that they say what he is. But I just assumed that he was a human who was just, sensitive to mysticism.
I think he might also be a magic user, because when Constantine shows up the second time, punches the bouncer, and shows up with like the holy shotgun, Papa Midnight like puts his hand up, and Constantine's like, da. But then he does use like his magic powers to like force him against the wall. Yeah,
his hands are like in him.
Yeah. Very similar to how Lucifer was at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So I wish there was a little bit more explained there, and maybe they were hoping for a sequel or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe they were going to explain more, but I am curious. I don't know much. I don't know his origin. I don't know I don't know if he's just got a gift like Constantine does. Obviously there are a lot of humans in this movie who are connected to this world, Beeman, Hennessy, they all are kind of aware of these things. Maybe not to the extent that Constantine is.
Yeah.
Papa Midnight, I believe that he is a human. I'm curious about the magic part of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I actually really like about this movie is the way that you can actually identify the half-breeds by their eyes. The way their eyes are like animal eyes, and they kind of reflect the light in a weird way or something.
Yeah.
The first time it happened with Gabriel, I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
And then you see it again with like Balthazar and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is cool. So I thought that was
reminded me of a cat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. I thought it was a really kind of, it was a smart way to it was subtle at first. It became a little bit less subtle as the movie went on. Like when he first shows up at Papa Midnight, there's two women, I think, kind of just sitting there, like looking towards the camera, and their eyes are like super bright. And I think even at one point, Balthazar's eyes are kind of bright. But when the first time you see it with Gabriel, it was kind of subtle. And I really, really liked it, the way it was done.
Yeah.
So in this movie, Constantine says that angels and demons actually cannot cross over into our world. The ones that can are half-breeds. They don't really, as far as I know, explain exactly what a half-breed is, just a half-demon. I don't know if it's half-demon, or he does talk about how demons can possess people.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a possessed person, because Gabriel is not.
No.
Gabriel seems like a full-on angel.
Yeah.
But it isn't, because he says he calls Gabriel a half-breed and talks about how only half-breeds are the ones that can like kind of be in our world.
Yeah.
Except that the whole premise of this movie is that demons are trying to get into our world.
Yeah.
And he even talks about fighting like that bug demon that he fights
Uh-huh.
that he kills in the middle of the road.
Uh-huh.
That is a demon that obviously somehow kind of crossed over. And then there's the part when Angela, they're out in the street and all the power goes out and he lights the rag on his fist and there's all those demons flying over, and he even says they're demons. So I don't know. I'm curious. I don't really quite understand what half-breeds are, but I also am curious as to kind of the rules of the movie where demons and angels can't cross over, but there are these demons who are crossing over.
Whatever is keeping them from crossing over has been weakened. So
because of this whole plot to have Maman come to Earth.
Right. So I think that could have been explicitly explained a little bit more. But yeah. I think that's what it is. Because the kid is coming.
Right, Maman.
Maman.
The son of the devil.
Yeah, the son of the devil. Because he's coming, then everything is kind of weird and in flux.
Right. Okay. So because this plan is like set in motion, the two planes of existence are kind of
merging.
Doorways are kind of weakened or opened or unlocked or whatever.
Right.
And the whole plot to get Maman to Earth, he needs a very powerful psychic, which is why Isabel and Angela were basically chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs divine intervention, basically, kind of, which is why they have the Spear of Destiny. The spear is the spear that pierced Jesus's side on the crucifix, has Jesus's blood on it or something. And so by using that spear with a combination of a powerful psychic, they can bring Maman to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And Isabel doesn't want to have any part of it, which is why she kills herself. And Angela, because of their Catholic beliefs, she doesn't believe that her sister would have killed herself, because that would mean that she's damned to go to hell,
mm-hmm.
For her, for the mortal sin that she did or whatever. And so that's the whole point. That's how Constantine goes to. I don't understand that really. I don't quite understand how Constantine goes to hell. He puts his feet in the water and he stares at a cat. I get it when he does it to Angela, because he basically kills her.
Uh-huh.
He drowns her, but it's this weird. I like the whole concept of time stopping. I thought that was super cool,
mm-hmm.
and how it happens kind of in an instant. He's in hell for a few minutes, but it's just within the time it takes for her to close the door, and then she immediately opens it and he's back.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of cool, but I didn't really understand the whole looking at the cat thing. I don't know if
the only thing that I can think of, in ancient Egypt, cats were like the guardians of the underworld.
Oh,
so maybe that has something. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I could buy that. All right, that works. Oh, so we got to talk about. So I kind of feel like not every character gets enough character development, but I do like Constantine's arc. His whole thing about he was born with this gift to see half-breeds, really, demons and angels and things like that.
Yeah.
And his parents basically thought he was having psychotic episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So they committed him. They did electroshock therapy. He thought he was crazy, basically, and ended up committing suicide, which, as we know from this movie, damns you to hell.
Yeah.
He was in hell for 2 minutes and then got revived, I guess. But because he did it, he is still, damned.
Yeah.
And so he is trying to work his way into God's graces and try to work his way into heaven. And I like the scene with Gabriel in the beginning where she's like, everything you do for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything you do is to try to work your way back into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And he also finds out that he's got lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a heavy smoker, which is straight from the comics. Heavy smoker. He has lung cancer now, so now he's dying, which he does not want to do because he knows where he's going.
Right.
And so he's trying to figure out what he can do in his last months or whatever to not go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really like his character arc. I like how she's kind of right. He's doing all these things for selfish reasons, for self-preservation, really.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the movie, he finally learns how to
be selfless,
do something selfless. And I really liked that. I like that aspect of his character and all that.
I agree. He is the only character in the movie that has development that is a 3-dimensional character.
Right.
That is my biggest gripe with this movie. Other than the lack of explaining of some things, like the rules of the world. My biggest gripe is the characters all feel flat, and the movie is heavily reliant on Constantine, the character of Constantine, and the noir aesthetic. Keanu Reeves and the tone of the movie carry the movie.
Right. Yeah, that's my biggest gripe too. Like all the other characters, including Rachel Weisz's character, to me, feel very flat.
Yeah.
And Chaz, like, I like Shia LaBeouf in this movie. I think he's good. He doesn't get a whole lot. He disappears for a long time.
Yeah.
And then when he comes back,
I forgot he was in the movie.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And when he finally comes back, he's been wanting to help Constantine, and Constantine's kind of keeping him, away from everything, and just really having him be like a chauffeur.
Yeah.
And when he finally gets to help, he's immediately killed.
Right.
And so that's a bit of a bummer. But like, so he's comedic relief, but he doesn't have a whole lot of meat to his character.
He plays the same character in iRobot. He is the exact same character in iRobot. Like down to how he's dressed.
Oh, wow. It's been a while since I've seen iRobot too. I actually read again on IMDb that I think Akiva Goldsman might have produced iRobot as well. He produced this movie.
Yeah.
And
apparently he's a fan of Shia LaBeouf.
I think it was either Will Smith recommended him or Akiva Goldsman liked him in iRobot and put him in this movie. But it was because of iRobot that he got this movie.
Ah, okay.
Apparently. So I'm not surprised that they're like, you played this character really well. You can play him again in this movie. Speaking of kind of the Constantine's self-sacrifice and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what happens is Gabriel, we find out Gabriel is kind of behind it all. Gabriel is the one that set this plan in motion to bring Maman to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I should say they, because they do make Gabriel kind of androgynous. It's played by Tilda Swinton, but I think Gabriel is always kind of usually depicted as like a male. If angels have gender, I
do think that in the movie he is canonically male, but they casted Tilda Swinton to make him kind of pretty.
Right, I got you. So anyway, Gabriel thinks that humans are not really worthy of God's
grace,
love, and forgiveness, and so Gabriel's whole plan is to bring hell to Earth, to make everybody repent, I guess, or something, something like that. And so, right as Gabriel is about to stab Angela, because Angela is basically possessed by Maman and release Maman, Constantine slits his wrist. He commits suicide again.
Yeah.
Time stops and Lucifer shows up.
Yeah.
And I love
Peter Stormare's
version of Lucifer. He's not in the movie very long, but he chews the scenery so perfectly, in my opinion. I really, really like his scene. I really like his depiction of Lucifer. I think he plays it really well. The one thing I don't like is, again, it's not quite explained. We're just told, John Constantine's soul is the one soul that Lucifer would actually come to Earth to collect.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not really told why. It's just that's just what we're told. And when Lucifer shows up, he even says, like, you're the one soul I would come up here to collect. But again, I don't really know why. So yeah. But I love all that. My least favorite moment, though, you know how in The Crow you were talking about that terrible line about drugs. I'm so glad you brought
that up. Yes, I do remember.
Constantine, the selfless act that Constantine does is not necessarily a suicide. Lucifer basically, because Lucifer stops the whole plan, because he doesn't want his son to come to Earth. He wants Earth for himself. He tells Constantine, all right, I'll give you whatever you want. He's like, you want not your soul, but he's like, you want your life back, basically. You can live.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I want Isabel to be able to go to heaven and not be in hell. And he's like, okay, fine. And so then he starts dragging Constantine. He's like, you're mine now. But because he did that selfless act, he's been absolved, earned his way into heaven, basically. And I love the shot of him going to heaven and then just flicking off Lucifer as he's kind of like being taken away. I think that's fantastic. But as Lucifer is dragging him and then suddenly can't drag him anymore,
mm-hmm.
he realizes what is going on, and he goes, the sacrifice. And I'm like, God, it just ruins the moment. It's like so on the nose. Like, we know.
Right.
You don't need to tell us that it's the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And then there's a line right after that he has that's fine. And I wish they had just cut out the sacrifice line and just had the second line, whatever that was. But yeah, I hated that line.
I 100% agree. But I'm glad you brought up The Crow, because this movie is so influenced by The Crow. Like, as far as like just the aesthetic and how the movie looks and feels, like this is heavily influenced by The Crow.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. And I think Francis Lawrence had a pretty cool eye. You could I could kind of almost tell that he was a music video director, because there was a lot of cool visual moments in it, you know, that looked like they would have been, that almost belonged in a music video. Like when Lucifer walks in to find Gabriel about to stab Angela, he like bursts through the glass, and the glass is all just kind of like hovering, and he's walking through the broken glass. Like, that's very, in my opinion, very music video-y.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, how do you feel about so for overall, I think the costume design is fairly kind of straightforward. But at the end, when Gabriel shows up, because this whole thing takes place at a hospital,
mm-hmm.
Gabriel is in kind of a hospital themed outfit. And I actually kind of thought it was kind of cool.
I did too.
Gabriel had like the medical like wristbands on, like had a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And just the way Gabriel was dressed and everything, I thought it was kind of cool looking.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Gabriel is very, what's the word that I'm looking for? Performative.
Right.
So I thought that was a very nice touch. I like that.
The music, Brian Tyler. No, is that right? No, Tyler Bates.
Tyler Bates, I think.
Hold on. Tyler Bates and Klaus Badelt, which he did the music for the first Pirates.
Yeah.
Even though I think Hans Zimmer
made the theme,
helped out with that.
Yeah.
But like I didn't. That's the only movie I've ever seen Klaus Badelt's name on. Obviously not. I had seen this movie, but it was interesting seeing his name on the credits for the score for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Klaus Badelt. I had never. These are the only two movies I know that he's done. Really, I guess. But how do you feel about the music in the movie?
I honestly don't remember much of the music, if any.
Yeah, there's like one or two scenes where it kind of stood out to me, and at one point I thought they were using the Saw music, because I swear it was like. And I was like, hold on, but it didn't do it. Like, I think it was just like those three notes were kind of the same, and then it kind of did something else. But I remember hearing that and being like, whoa. They're making a second one, by the way, supposedly.
The sequel is like it's been in development for a long time. So like this movie had gotten a cult following like years afterwards.
I was gonna say, I don't remember this movie having like a big. I don't think it was widely loved when it first came out.
No, it's. I don't think people hated it. I just think a lot of people didn't know about it.
Oh, that could be. They could just
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it got this cult following, and people got interested in the character again because of Matt Ryan. People were like, man, they really should have made a sequel to that 2005 Constantine. And I think for like maybe the last decade or so, it's been on again and off again. But more recently, maybe in like the last 3 years, like it's I don't want to say it's becoming more real, but I think there's more of a possibility now than there ever has been for a sequel to this movie.
Yeah, I think, I haven't heard much about it. I've heard kind of the rumors of the possibility of Constantine 2, but according to IMDb, Francis Lawrence is attached to it. So I don't, if he might be coming back as a director. Keanu Reeves apparently is on board, so I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, both of them really want to make this movie.
Yeah, which is cool. And it'd be cool to see Keanu Reeves back in the role as Constantine again. Hopefully be good. The visual effects probably be better. So it'd be interesting.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so too. Well, let's go into a rating. What would you rate Constantine?
This movie is it's good. It's good. It's not one that I'm gonna watch often, but
yeah,
I'm not gonna say I went in with low expectations when I first watched this, but I don't know. It didn't subvert or exceed my expectations. This movie is
just met them.
Yeah, this movie is exactly what I thought it was gonna be.
Right,
and that's okay. Like I said, the biggest things about this movie is that Keanu Reeves carries it, and the tone, they like whatever tone they were going for, they nailed it. That being said, it lacks some world building, lacks character development. So I'm going to have to give it a 3.5 out of 5. 3.5, holy, what is that? A pistol?
The holy grenades.
Holy grenade, yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know if they ever call them that, but yeah, those little ornaments basically full of holy water.
Yeah.
Where he slams against his chest to get out of hell.
Yeah.
Did Angela have that when she was in hell? Because he drowns her in the tub.
No.
We don't ever actually see her in hell, but unless maybe he put some holy water in the tub or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm the same boat with you. I'm going to go a little bit just tiny. I'm going to probably take off a half a star for some of the stuff we talked about, the lack of character development, some of the stuff that's not really explained, some of the stuff that's just kind of told to us without really an explanation. So for me, it's 3. I'm going to give it 3 holy shotguns out of 5.
Ooh.
But I agree. I mean, I appreciate this movie. The aesthetic, I really, Keanu Reeves carries the film and I think is entertaining enough to make up for some of its flaws. But I agree. I think it's not a movie that I'm going to watch that often.
Right.
We'd love to know what you think about Constantine. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can follow us on Instagram. And if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think that about wraps it up for this video, though. Or for this episode, excuse me. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.